Indian farmers have finally ended a year of mass protests after the Modi government finally agreed to back down from a series of highly controversial laws related to agriculture. In doing so, the farmers have established themselves as one of the most successful mass movements to challenge Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government. The protests began in August 2020 when farmers from all over the country began camping out and protesting at the edges of the capital, Delhi, braving difficult weather, hunger, and the threat of COVID-19. The protests revolved around three major laws that regulated the sale, storage, and pricing of agricultural produce. The government reforms claimed to offer farmers the ability to sell their produce outside of the so-called mandi system. But the protesters said the laws would have allowed private operators to control prices and ruin the livelihoods of farmers. The farmers said that India's strict protections around the sale of agricultural products had protected them for years. The government argued that the laws would actually benefit the farmers. But the proposed laws would have essentially removed protections farmers had from big companies leveraging their power to drive down prices. Farmers said this would have been devastating. After over a year of sustained action, farmers groups took the decision to finally end the mass protests after government ministers agreed to discuss their demands, including guaranteed prices for produce and dropping criminal charges against farmers who had participated in the protests. After months of refusing to back down and even suggesting the laws would benefit farmers, Narendra Modi announced his government would roll back the legislation. The government also agreed to compensate the families of the farmers who died during the protests, a drastic turn from its original claim that it had no record of how many farmers had died. Farmers form a formidable voting constituency in India, and experts say the upcoming state elections may be part of why the government backed down. Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party has often been criticized for using its political muscle to force through sweeping legal changes, but after the farmers' protests, Narendra Modi made an unusually conciliatory announcement live on television, saying, "While apologizing to the nation, I want to say with a sincere and pure heart that maybe something was lacking in our efforts, that we could not explain the truth to some of our farmer brothers. Let us make a fresh start." Modi's rare backdown is significant. It's a clear signal that his once formidable political position may not be as secure as it once was. Modi has previously been criticized by the international community for major legislative changes that rolled back and threatened human rights, including revoking the special status of Kashmir, detaining many Kashmiri political leaders, and introducing citizenship laws designed to deny equal rights to Muslims. Under Modi, India has experienced a surge in Hindu nationalism, which he has consistently fueled to win elections and consolidate his political position. Critics of Modi's regime, including activists, journalists, and even political figures, have faced intense and sustained harassment and threats of violence, which many say has a chilling effect on public debate. There has also been a dramatic rise in the spread of fake news and disinformation. Many have drawn parallels to the climate of extreme political rhetoric and social polarization created by Donald Trump's populism.
Both sides can debate openly. Those who believe there is excessive or hyper-nationalism, and those like me who believe there can never be enough nationalism.
But Modi's handling of the pandemic and his inability to avoid massive damage to the economy, as well as refusing to acknowledge the scale of devastation caused by the coronavirus, has caused considerable damage to his reputation. This was confirmed earlier this year when Modi's party, the BJP, lost decisively in elections in West Bengal. Now facing a decline in his once unassailable popularity, Modi's change in tone is an admission that the BJP may be forced to change its strong-arm tactics. The farmers' protests succeeded in part because of their ability to mobilize international support. Solidarity marches were held around the world, and the movement was endorsed by politicians and celebrities including Justin Trudeau, Hassan Minhaj, and Rihanna. The protesting farmers and their supporters also rallied around the values of collectivism, sending the message that they were fighting for the good of the masses as opposed to the few and powerful who would benefit from the new laws. The farmers' protests spread over massive tent cities where communities successfully cooperated for months to feed, clothe, and protect each other from law enforcement and agitators. It has been celebrated as a victory for grassroots organizing and nonviolent resistance. Modi and his party have attempted to spin the decision to back down as an example of him hearing the farmers' concerns, but few are likely to buy this. After years of rising authoritarianism, could this success mark a major shift for wider democracy and social justice movements in India?